It's okay.
Vince, you know what it is?
Rapid fire time, baby.
Rapid fire, baby. That's right.
Let's go.
Time for some rapid fire. DK getting in, and Angeli is
Of course
elite,
he is.
just for the heck of it.
Yep.
So more from Fighting Irish defensive coordinator Al Golden. Some of the biggest praise that he threw out there when we got to talk to him last week, praise for Jeremiyah Love. And here is Golden's comparison for Jeremiyah Love. Who does Jeremiyah Love remind him of?
Again, he's probably going to hate me for saying this. He reminds me of Ricky. He runs like Ricky Waters, just strong and run through, high knee kick, very high, good acceleration. To me, that's who he reminds me of. Maybe he's faster, but that's who he reminds me of in terms of just a violent runner, like a violent runner. And if you're out of place, he's going to get to the next level.
Some pretty big praise there. Vince,
Yeah.
Jeremiyah Love, Ricky Waters, a guy who played for 10 years in the NFL, ran for over 10,000 yards, caught over 4,000 yards worth of passes. Are you concerned at all that Love is getting so much hype without really, without doing anything yet, basically?
I mean, I don't know that I'm concerned. It's nice that people are hyping a guy that's actually going to play and, that kind of a deal, because usually it's hyping up somebody's backup. But I can see the comparison. I mean, the skill set is similar, right? I mean, he played running back and wide receiver at Notre Dame. And I'm trying to think of it like the college version of Ricky Waters, right? I mean, the NFL version and the college version, I think, are two different animals to a degree.
I mean, Reggie Bush, Reggie obviously was a smaller frame, not nearly as physical
Right.
as either probably what we're going to see. Like Jeremiyah Love, one has got to prove that he can be physical, but
Sure.
not as physically imposing as Ricky Waters. But Reggie could obviously do a lot of everything.
Oh yeah.
Like the modern guy that I've thought of is Alvin Kamara, who was with he played for Tennessee and he's played for the Saints for the last several years. He does a little bit of everything. He can run between, he catches passes, he can run between the tackles, do all those different kind of things. I'm trying to, like other guys who kind of fit that bill. I kind of struggle, with sort of figuring out exactly who that would be as well in terms of guys who have been college, bona fide college stars.
I get that. And I don't know that I would have pulled Ricky Waters out of my hat when asked that question, but he probably also wasn't thinking I'm going to be asked for a comparison of an offensive guy either. So it's not like he could have kind of prepped for that. And that's who came to mind. So, I mean, I dig the fact that it came to mind. I think that's awesome, but he probably should have kept number 12 then, right?
I know, because they both wore, like Jeremiyah Love wore 12 last year.
Yeah.
Ricky Waters wore 12. Maybe that's in the back of it.
Maybe.
I don't know. But
is he getting too much hype? I don't think he's getting too much hype. People aren't saying that he's going to be a Heisman Trophy candidate, or at least I don't think they are. Maybe they are. I don't think they should. And the fact that the left tackle just went down probably might temper some people's expectations to a degree.
Doesn't help. Yeah.
Doesn't help in the situation any. I think he's going to be dynamic. I think he's going to be really good. The jury's still out on how good. I think all the tools are there. I'll say that.
And I definitely think the extra weight that he's been able to add,
massive, huge,
is going when you look at, again, like I was saying, Reggie Bush, maybe just in terms of the receiving skills and the ability to do those kind of things and the speed to go along with it. But Bush was not nearly as physical as a guy like Waters. And I think that when I think of Ricky Waters and seeing him play, I just think about this sort of frenetic, sort of, like quick twitch all over the place, plus just the ability to lower his shoulder and plow right through you type of guy. And like the lower the shoulder and plow through you, I think needs to be proven at least to some extent by Jeremiyah Love. We saw some flashes of that in the blue gold game, and it looks like he's added a little bit more muscle since then. So, I just, again, he hasn't actually, like, we know the kind of athlete that Jeremiyah Love is, but he hasn't shown that he can go out and do it at a game. So it just feels like there's some really heavy comparisons being thrown around right now when he hasn't actually taken a snap, as a starter, with the exception of the Sun Bowl.
This is true.
Last year.
This is true, but people could be hopeful, I suppose.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
I think we've seen that. We've seen plenty of hopeful, right?
Yeah, certainly have.
Interesting. Matt Lee came in and chimed in and he says, so our Irish are going to stink this year, according to so many on social media, just because of a left tackle getting hurt. Don't forget it's something like 12% of anyone, of internet users worldwide, 12% are on Twitter. So think about that. 12% of the entire world. So how much stock you want to put on, what's going out there on Twitter X or whatever you want to call it. Let's tamp it a little bit. There's always going to be people who are going to pay.
Oh, of course. And here's the other thing.
Season's not over.
Notre Dame fans love to be miserable.
Right.
I'll just leave it at that. They love to be miserable. And this is a perfect opportunity to wallow in that misery.
Joe said we need something after the news today. Well, I mean, that's why we're here.
Yeah.
We're your therapy, right? Cheap
right.
Therapy. Show's free.
That's right.
So we talked a little about Tyler Buchner. We always talk a little bit about Tyler Buchner. I guess we don't always, but he's come up. He's come up, right?
2-6. That's right.
Yes.
TB 26.
Yes. So do you buy or sell a Tyler Buchner quarterback package this year, next year, or any year that Tyler Buchner is at Notre Dame?
If Riley Leonard gets hurt, then go ahead and throw a package in. If Riley Leonard is healthy, then no. I do not think you need a Tyler Buchner package. There's nothing that Riley Leonard can't. There's nothing that Tyler Buchner can do that Riley Leonard can't do.
Right.
I'll say that. So what's the point?
I agree. And this is a walk-on wide receiver now.
Correct.
But I think people can't get out of their mind that this was supposed to be Notre Dame's future a couple of years ago. But the reason he is now a walk-on wide receiver is because a little bit more than a year ago, he entered the transfer portal rather than he could be the starting quarterback potentially going into this training camp right now. If he had stayed at Notre Dame, Riley Leonard very well might not be here right now.
That's
and
fair.
The succession plan would look a lot different. And, I saw, we had they had a package for Tyler Buchner when he was a freshman and all this different kind of stuff. Remember, Jack Cohn's skill set, Tyler Buchner's skill set, two completely different things. That's part of why you had a Tyler Buchner package, because of the kind of athleticism that Buchner could bring to the field. That, along with the fact that they wanted to get him on the field, get him some actual game reps, because of the fact that he was going to be the starting quarterback the following year after Jack Cohn. None of that is in play right now. So I see zero benefit of designing some kind of Buchner package going forward.
Yeah. I mean, look, if Riley Leonard gets hurt, then Buchner has a skill set that the other three do not have. Then we can have a discussion on something that he could bring to the table, right? Because those other three guys aren't the runners that Riley Leonard are. They're all athletic. They can all move the chains, that kind of a thing, but they're not Tyler Buchner. Tyler Buchner is dynamic with his legs. No matter whether you think he was a good quarterback or not a good quarterback, he's dynamic with his legs. I think we can all get on that page, right? The other three quarterbacks are not dynamic with their legs, okay? So, yeah, you could put in a package. You could have that ready to go if you wanted to, if Riley Leonard gets hurt. If he's healthy, just stay as far away from that as possible. There's just no point.
Correct. Agree. All of the above. Vince, based on what we've seen in the opening days of training camp, scale of 1 to 10, what chance do you give Deion Colzie to be a significant wide receiver contributor this season?
Based on what we've seen so far at practice, I put it at about a 1.5, because he has not even been practicing with the 1s or the 2s. And so I'm not saying he'll be buried there forever, but as of right now, he's not even sniffing the rotation. So I've got to put it pretty low, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I would put it at a 2 at best because, again, like this guy, when we saw the split field last week and they were running first and second string offense on one field, third and fourth string on the other, he was with the third and fourth string guys. And, we've already seen some inconsistency with just the simple stuff like holding on to the football. And that's been the biggest thing for Colzie.
Yeah.
And, look, they brought in Bo Collins, Chris Mitchell, and Jaden Harrison. And so far, all three of those guys have looked better than anything that we've seen from Colzie in this camp so far. In fact, Jaden Harrison is the guy who's turning heads right now, and we weren't even really sure, what to think of him as an actual wide receiver, more as a kick returner.
I mean, if you write down the names of all the receivers that you think are going to play, in the order that you think they're going to play, Colzie might come in 8, 9, 10 in that neighborhood, and that includes the current freshmen. I believe there's 11 scholarship wide receivers off the top of my head. I think he's probably in the 8-9 range, right now. From a coach trust / playing standpoint, you're gonna have a bunch of guys ahead of him right now. So, unfortunately for him, I just don't see that being the case.
Andrew asked why they sold him on staying. They should have let him transfer. I don't think they necessarily sold him. I think he wanted to stay, and I think the degree, might have played into that. I think this was much more about, because I think that if you went back to last season with the things going on in that room, I think there was a greater chance than not that he was going to leave by the end of the season. But once they made the move at receiver coach, he ultimately.
Well, you also have to remember what that room looked like after the exodus of all those other guys, right? It was empty. There's hardly anybody there. Of course, they're going to ask him to stay. That I'm sure that conversation took place. I'm sure they weren't on their knees begging, but at the same time, there was nobody in that room, Sean. Of course they're going to want him to stick around.
That's
they
true.
Recruited him for a reason.
He still hadn't secured all the transfers yet.
100%. We want to stop the bleeding. So yes, we want you to stick around. They're not going to make any playing time, promises or anything like that. But yeah, you want him to stick around. He's still a body. He's still a guy that you can count on. He's still a good kid. He's not a kid that you want to, run off the team or anything like that. So yeah, you absolutely ask him to stick around.
Yeah. I think it's going to take, basically what would amount to some unfortunate situations for Colzie to get real opportunities.
And it's unfortunate. I would love for him to get an opportunity, but he's had a lot of those opportunities and it just hasn't worked out for him. I mean, that's kind of just where we're at right now.
Yep. Vince, we got a lot of details on the Michigan sign stealing investigation and scandal, which reminds me, did you delete those 52 texts that I sent you last month?
I keep all my texts. We're in trouble.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, do something with it a little bit later, I guess. So, Jerome Moore, man. I mean, is like one of 7 members of the staff accused of violating NCAA rules.
If anybody's wondering why Jim Harbaugh is now the coach of the LA Chargers, you should be wondering no more. Okay, I'll just leave it at that part. But you continue with. I mean,
go ahead.
When you sent me the rundown for the show, and I started reading because I haven't been following it as closely as maybe I should have, as far as like everything that's coming down with Michigan and everything. I've been kind of watching the Olympics and whatever. Holy crap, Sean! Like as I'm reading through it, it's nothing that I didn't think was going on, but the fact that they have proof positive that this stuff occurred, and they've got numbers to back it up, and they've got level 1 violations and all of these different things. It's just like they might as well have had a neon sign outside the practice facility just saying like, we're guilty. I mean, it's just like destroying hard drives.
Here's some of the highlights for anyone maybe who hasn't seen. So the investigation revealed, among other things, 52 texts sent by New Michigan head coach Jerome Moore that he sent to Connor Stallions that he deleted. He deleted 52 texts, and then ultimately they used something where they were able to go back and recover the text. But he deleted 52 texts for Connor Stalions. There were several removed computer hard drives from computers in the building.
Crazy.
Moore is considered a potential repeat violator by the NCAA because in August of 2023, he negotiated a resolution to claims that he contacted recruits during the COVID-19 recruiting dead period. 5 of the NCAA's draft says that they used ticket information, film, photographs, and interviews to determine that Connor Stalions had impermissibly scouted at least 13 future Michigan opponents at least 58 different times between 2021 and 2023, that Stalions directed others to scout some opponents multiple times, including one team they scouted 7 times in 2022 alone. And the draft of this also says that Stalions was directing like interns and, those kind of people at Michigan to do, a lot of the dirty work, and that he led them to believe that what they were doing was not against the rules. And of course, they also have the Central Michigan disguise, the fact that he obtained a pass to get on the Central Michigan sideline. But Jim Harbaugh, Chris Partridge, Denard Robinson, Stalions also accused of committing level 1 violations, which are the most serious by the NCAA. It is virtually staggering, Vince, how much they've got against these guys in this whole deal.
It is awesome, frankly. I'm enjoying it. I'm wondering how deep it has to go for them to have to give up their championship. Like that, honestly, that's seriously what I'm thinking right now. Because these are some pretty serious allegations. And I don't even know if we can even use the word allegations anymore, because I'm pretty sure they're guilty of every single one of them. Otherwise, they wouldn't have come out with them in this draft. Like they have proof that this all took place. And so I don't know, man.
It feels like if the Fab Five, Michigan basketball, Chris Webber and, all those guys, like if they had to vacate a Final Four appearance because of, basically some BS. It was like, it's stuff that started, I think, when Chris Webber was in high school, like taking some cash from a guy who ended up being connected. Like if they can vacate that for that, this seems like how can you not vacate everything they did last year?
Yeah, this is what I'm saying.
Because I know the people, I've heard the defenders and especially obviously the Michigan people saying, well, we won the games, after, there wasn't any more of the scouting going on. Well, you still had a boatload of information that you got from that,
Yeah. There's no way that you can defend what they did. There's no way you can defend it. I'm sorry. There's no way you can defend it. It's just wrong on so many levels, So I hope they get whatever it is that they get, and I'll enjoy it when they get it. I would love for their championship to be taken away. It probably won't happen because, as Joe says, the NCAA doesn't have any backbone anymore. I tend to agree with that. So they probably will just get a slap on the wrist. But my goodness, these are some serious allegations. Like, come on, man. Why do you have to break the rules? If you're that good, why do you have to break the rules? If you think you're that good, why are you breaking the rules?
Yeah, and it like throw out anyone who's actually attached to Michigan. Like the amount of people who are theoretically supposed to be neutral, who I've heard say, like I've heard some fairly prominent college football writers saying, well, everyone does some form of sign stealing. If you don't understand the difference between doing it while you're standing on the sideline or sitting in a press box during a game against the team you're playing, like in the moment,
correct.
That kind of sign stealing is completely different than sending people out, recording signals weeks before the game to obtain as much information and catalog as, much of the signs. That is completely different than actually doing it during a game. And if you don't understand how different those two things are, you really shouldn't have anything to do with college sports. I don't think in any capacity. If you don't understand the difference between those two things.
100% agree with that. 100% agree with that. They went way too far. They went way too far with this entire thing. Way too far. And then they covered it up. When they say the cover up is worse than the crime, they all knew. They all knew.
They all knew, Vince, and they let it happen.
That's all I'm saying. And then they tried to cover it up after the fact. So, you're erasing text messages, hard drives, all these different things. The head coach bails, basically, so he doesn't have to face the music. All these different things have occurred. They need to drop the hammer. It won't happen, but they need to.
And I guess Connor Stalions never cooperated with the investigation, but there's going to be that Netflix series.
Isn't he going to have a Netflix documentary?
Not series, but yeah, the next. I'm even more curious now to see what comes out in that.
How is the NCAA not going to just sit back with a notepad and a pencil and just watch that Netflix documentary and come up with more stuff?
Yeah,
because he's just going to be blabbing his mouth, because he's an idiot. But whatever. It's appointment TV. I'll be watching it as soon as it comes out.
If it's all him, if the only point of view is him sitting there defending everything he did and whatever else, then obviously it's not going to be worth watching. But at least with all this coming out right now, I'm more interested now than ever in what's going to come out in that thing.
Right. Absolutely.
So I'll be watching. Okay, so I saw DK pose this question in the new Champions Lounge over the weekend. So DK said the group of 5 will get a team into the college football playoff regardless of its ranking. It's just the highest ranked group of 5 team that gets an automatic bid into the college football playoff. So DK asks, should there be a minimum ranking that the group of 5 should have in order to qualify for the playoffs? So what do you think about that, Vince?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, unless it's a season where there is no group of 5 team who's undefeated or, whatever the case may be. First of all, they have to be a conference champion. That's a prerequisite for them to get in. That's already there. They have always overly inflated the ranking of a group of 5 team. They always have, and they always will. And so I don't think there should be a minimum, because if there's a minimum, the College Football Playoff Committee will just put them wherever that minimum needs to be. So I don't think that really solves anything, because the rankings are done by the people that run the College Football Playoff. So they're going to rank it.
So you can basically make it, all you got to do is say, well, they're the number 12 team.
Because did we really think that Liberty should have been ranked as high as they were last year? I mean, realistically, should they have been whatever they ended up? Weren't they in like the low teens, I think, when it was all said and done? Did we really think that they were going to beat teams that were ranked in the 20s, for example, with like 3 losses that play a Power 5 schedule? No, that's unrealistic. But that's where they were ranked to make sure that it made sense when they made it to the playoff.
Well,
you knew you're 6.
Right. All that, absolutely right. The key for these next couple years of the playoff, to expand to 12 as early as they did, because remember the original contract, they were still supposed to be playing the 4-year playoff this year. In order to change the format before the contract came up, you had to get unanimous approval by everyone in the FBS, like each of the FBS conferences. So you were not going to get the group of 5 conferences to ratify the change to the playoff. You were not going to get them to vote yes to change it if you're going to leave the group of 5 out. Right. So that's part of it as well. Like,
that's true. Good point.
You basically had to appease the masses by throwing them a bone and giving them a path to the playoff. And I mean, I get what DK is saying.
And so do I. You don't want to have a patsy in there for no reason.
But odds are, just like you were saying, whether it's Liberty or UCF or, Boise State back in the day, whoever it happens to be, you're going to have one of those teams who's going to have like 1 loss or no losses. And it's like, what does it hurt basically to make them the 12 seed or the 14 seed, depending on what format you're playing in. Right.
So DK says Liberty was 23. I looked it up. They're 100% were number 23. SMU was 24. Kansas State was 25. On a neutral field, are you taking Liberty or Kansas State?
Oh, Kansas State.
In a heartbeat.
Right.
In an absolute heartbeat. Yet they were ranked 2 slots ahead. They're going to rank teams the way they want them to be. And remember the debate last year was, and Sloppy Joe reminded me of this, was it SMU or Liberty? You know, who should be ranked higher? Well, Liberty was undefeated, and I believe SMU had a loss. SMU was the better team. If you pitted them up on a neutral field, SMU wins that game every time. But because they were undefeated, they got that little nudge, and they got to be 23 while SMU was 24. You know what I mean? So they're going to manipulate it however they need to manipulate it to make it come out the way they want it to come out.
Yes. And, you know, look, you're essentially, you know, I realize, you know, there's probably a case for everyone gets a trophy, everyone gets a ribbon or whatever, but you're essentially, you're throwing a bone. Like, these are also FBS conferences. So is their main purpose just to come in, play against each other, get some big paychecks for going in and being the whipping boy to, you know, some of the Power 5 teams? Or do they, should they at least have, you know, should one team, because that's all you're given is one spot.
Yeah.
You're given one spot out of all of these group of 5 programs. You know, all you're doing is giving them entry into the tournament. It's really not that much different than, you know, 13, 14, 15 seeds in the NCAA basketball tournament.
Exactly.
You're just, you're
and the automatic bids.
You're giving entry to everybody.
And look, you know, if you want to put yourselves in the shoes of like a group of 5 team, you know, it gives them something to shoot for, right? And if you're a Liberty or if you're a I don't know, let's say a Ball State or somebody like that has a really good season and you've got an opportunity to be a higher ranked group of 5 team, that the money that they would get being in the playoff is more money than they would have ever seen in multiple years of playing group of 5 football. You know what I mean? And so that's something to shoot for. And the experience of being a part of it and all of those different things. It's a carrot. It's a carrot for those teams. And I honestly, I do not have a problem with it, especially since I follow Notre Dame and the best they can do is number 5. They're going to be playing that team a lot if they end up in that number 5 hole. Right. And so, you know, it's an automatic win pretty much. So I'm okay with that part too.
Yep. So I know you've been watching the Olympics. I've been watching the Olympics. 100-meter final yesterday, the men's 100-meter final.
I missed it live, but how could you have missed everything that has come after it?
Oh my gosh.
Holy cow.
Lee Diffie calling the Olympic track and field action for NBC. I was originally going to play the audio.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do it because I don't want
get demonetized.
Yeah, I don't want to, because I've even just played audio before, not the video, and we've gotten flagged, and I don't want to go through that whole thing. So the bottom line is, it's neck and neck coming down to the wire. You've got 4 guys within, you know, hundreds of a second of each other as they come to the finish line, and the Jamaican, you know, Diffie thought that the Jamaican had won, and he's like, and Jamaica wins the gold medal, and, you know, the whole thing, and he goes nuts. And then the next thing you know, everyone's standing around, and it turns like, well, a little bit of a problem here, because it's actually Noah Lyles, the American
that won,
who got the gold medal. And again, like, this thing was so close. Like, I have a hard time seeing how anyone sitting in that spot like Diffie could pull a Vince D'Addario and declaratively.
Hold on a second. Why are you throwing me under the bus like that? Look, you can be excited.
What did you think? What did you think of his the way NBC handled it? Because even beyond just the actual call by Diffie, I thought there were a lot of other things that went wrong, like afterwards in sort of there was a lot of chaos and confusion created by NBC's broadcast, I think.
Well, look, you can be excited about a race and not declare a winner. You know what I mean? If it's not clear and obvious, you should wait for it to flash up on the scoreboard that you have available to you, not to mention the fact that if you watched any swimming or anything like that, like Rowdy Gaines had like the splits and like all of these different things at his disposal. So we know that these commentators have information at their disposal that we don't have. And so if it doesn't come up automatically as the winner that you think is the winner, shut your mouth. Be excited about the race.
Right.
And be like, oh my gosh, it was too close to call. We're going to have to wait and it's a photo finish. Like, you can be excited without declaring a winner.
It seems like that was the natural, like what should have, again, like it happens in the moment, whatever. And he's done a million of these things. So he's more experienced. But it just feels like when it's literally, you've got 4 guys lined up that close with like feet and arms and heads and leaning and everything else. It's like, it's just going to be too close to call. Like that seems like that would have been the natural thing to say.
Like watch a Cars movie, like the first Cars movie. That's how you call how you call a game. Okay.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but I'll believe you.
Well, because you don't have kids that are the same age as mine, but there was a tie at the beginning of the very first race, which is the whole point of the plot. Okay. 3 cars tied, and so they end up doing a race to play it off, right? With just the 3 cars. A little weird, but whatever. Bob Costas is the announcer for that, and he's like, oh my gosh, it's too close to call. We'll have to go to a photo finish.
There you go.
That's how you call a close race.
Right.
Like, come on, man.
Because then the other part of this whole thing is like they literally were like milling around for minutes. There was like silence before they finally were like, Noah Lyles is, like they never showed, the board inside, the stadium that showed the leaders. They never put a graphic on the screen after literally, hanging out for minutes and showing Lyles celebrate and run around and do his whole thing. They never put the final standings up on the screen to show us exactly who placed where, because, oh, by the way, they barely mention the other American who took bronze. They barely even mentioned that. And literally it was like a couple hundredths of a second that separated,
thousandths of a second was at what it ended up being. Because I think to the second decimal place, which is hundredths, they were the same. And then they had to go to 5 thousandths of a second to figure out first to second. You know what I mean? So like they were, why? Yeah, good point. Swing the camera, look at the scoreboard, and just stay there. Just stay on the scoreboard while you wait for it to be
Give us the
posted.
visual, your TV. Like it shouldn't be that hard. And again, even not doing that, again, they never put the graphic up on the screen before they finally cut away. You would and like I sent you a tweet, the BBC's broadcast of the whole thing.
Theirs was awesome, by the way.
Yeah, they had like so much information they were showing that NBC never even thought about touching.
Michael Johnson was geeking out at all of like the visual, stuff that they had to show you. Like they showed, who was ahead at the 30-meter mark, who was ahead at the 50-meter mark, like all of these different things, and then how fast they were going. And I mean, it was like almost information overload, to be honest with you. But in comparison, it was so much better than the NBC version. So much better.
And, I think Otto Bolton, the guy who does the color on NBC, he's fine. But I do find it ironic that you've got an Australian and Bolton. I can't remember exactly where Bolton is from. He's obviously from one of the, Caribbean islands, never ran for the U.S. Like, they're the guys who are doing the broadcast on NBC, while Michael Johnson, one of the greatest male track performers in U.S. history,
BBC,
is doing BBC broadcasts. How is that?
Sense.
How is that happening?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
I don't get it.
Yeah, you got me on that one. I've got no explanation. For that, I've got no explanation for that. They just need to bring back like Tom Hammond and just let him do it. I don't, I don't even know if I'm good. Is Tom Hammond still alive? I don't even know if I should.
I believe he is.
Okay, good. Bring him back. It's only 2 weeks. It's actually track and field's only a week. Bring him back. He was good.
Everyone's very excited about NBC doing the NBA and Notre Dame football now at this point. But you're going to get Dan Hicks straight from the pool in Paris. Doing Notre Dame games this fall. I think he's going to be really
I think
good.
Dan Hicks is going to be awesome doing Notre Dame games.
I know.
I like Dan Hicks, actually, as an announcer in general.
Yeah, I think so, too.
And I think he does him and Rowdy Gaines are amazing doing swimming. Like, if If you can't sit down and watch a close swimming race and not get excited with those two guys doing the call, then you don't have a passionate bone in your body.
Yeah.
I'll
But that
just say
NBC
that.
needs to find that and how
Yes.
whatever that booth translates to the track and field booth.
Right.
I think they need to figure that out.
Many more days.
They've got 4 years to figure that out. But Jesse, I was talking to Jesse this weekend, and he's like, seeing Dan Hicks calling this swimming and knowing that that's what Notre Dame is going to have doing football games this fall. That's pretty exciting.
I just want to give, we've got about a month. Just have Rowdy Gaines move into my house. I'll teach him all he needs to know about football. Get him as the color guy.
Just let Rowdy Gaines do Notre Dame football.
They could be in great shape. I think they should just do it. I'll teach him everything he needs to know.
That would be awesome. Riley Leonard, he gets it done.
I think it'd be great. People
Why
may
not?
poo-poo the idea, but I think he'd be great.
I think that you could do a lot worse than that. You're right.
And they have. NBC has done a lot worse.
Yeah, we just talked about it, actually. That's very, very true.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's going to do it for tonight. Thanks for being here. We've got a lot to go. Fall camp rolls on this week, and like Vince said, we're not supposed to say exactly when we're going to be out there and all that stuff, but we'll have some more camp availabilities this week, and we'll be here to talk about it, whether it's on this show or Brian's show, or we'll have We In, We Out later this week as well. So a lot of stuff to come this week on both IB Nation Sports Talk as well as the big show earlier in the day. We'll have some more comments from coaches and stuff like that on tomorrow's show. We got to talk to Deland McCullough last week, and I didn't even get to play any Deland today. Nice. So looking forward to that coming up this week too. All right, Vince, I will talk to you later. Everybody else, appreciate you again for being here. Hit that like button, subscribe, rate, review, all that good stuff. And we will talk to you later on IB Nation Sports Talk.